Hello, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer at Functional Aesthetics EC. We're helping average guys perform better in their lives inside and outside the gym. Today's video is a topic that is near and dear to me. As any of you who have followed me for a period of time know that a large part of my fitness and health and fitness journey has been related to my struggle with gut health issues or digestive problems, right? IBS, Crohn's, whatever you want to call it. That is a huge part of my health journey. So when I was 11 years old, I started creating my own workout programs and stuff like that. I became very involved in health, fitness, and sports. I loved pushing myself to the max in all variety of different, sorts of things like soccer, long distance running, martial arts, and later on in high school, got into powerlifting. Now, as a result of my health issues, I lost 30 pounds of muscle mass that I gained through powerlifting and had to start all over, and it took me about 10 years of kind of sifting through information, trying different things, trying to go to different health practitioners, doctors, and whatnot with very little success. And so in that process, I learned that, you've heard that you are what you eat, but I would go a step further to say that you're not what you eat, you are what you absorb. You cannot, the foundation of your health is in your gut. It's related to not only like your ability to repair from the activities of daily living and your workouts, but also your emotions, your mood, your mental health in general can all be traced back to the health of your digestive system, and even many chronic diseases, even obesity in some cases can be traced back to what's going on in your digestive tract. So in today's video, I want to talk about probiotics, and like I said here, gut health stems far beyond just bacteria and probiotics and taking a probiotic to help your digestive system. If probiotics was all that it would take to heal your digestive system, it would not have taken me 10 plus years of sifting through this and still in the ongoing process of trying to sort out some of the ongoing issues with my gut. But probiotics are a key piece, and the health of your microbiome is a key piece in resolving overall gut issues. So today, in this video, I want to go over 5 different areas related to the health of your microbiome and probiotics, and specifically probiotics that are beneficial for men. So I'm going to be talking about probiotics in relation to obesity, probiotics in relation to your immune system, probiotics in relation to muscle mass and strength, hormones such as testosterone, and then finally cognitive health. Okay, so bacteria as it relates to obesity. So in recent years, it has been discovered through various different studies that the kind of bacteria that you have in your digestive tract can influence your predisposition to gaining excess body fat, and also how difficult it is for you to lose body fat. And some of the things associated with that are the types of food that you eat, which foster the prevalence of certain harmful types of bacteria, and then also where you live versus the latitude, right? So people and animals that are in more northern climates tend to, over time, adapt, and this is over generational, right? But adapt, so such as the Inuit, and also if you notice for example, deer that are in the more northern climates where it's colder and stuff are going to have more larger body structures, thicker shorter limbs and thicker limbs as well. And the same is true with people versus, so for example, you go down to Arizona or something, or you go to Florida, and oftentimes deer are very skinny down there, and you come up into the northern climates and stuff, and the deer are more robust. And same thing with, Eskimos and things like that. People will be, stockier, shorter limb lengths and stuff as an adaptation to this. And they also have a different diversity of bacteria in their guts related to not only the things that they eat, but just adaptations over time to help them stay warm and thrive in harsher, more cold climates than their counterparts. So the first area would be looking at what are you eating, right? So they had different studies where they there was a study where they had 26 different participants. I know it's not a lot of different people. Actually, no, it was 62 participants over 26 weeks of the study, right? And the one study, and they were looking at two different types of bacteria. So the one type of bacteria was this Prevotella bacteria, and the other type of bacteria was this bactericides, right? So the Prevotella bacteria was associated with digestion and metabolism of carbohydrates and fiber, whereas the bactericides bacteria was associated with the metabolism and digestion of proteins and fats, right? So after the study, they found that the people who were eating the higher fiber and carbohydrate diet lost on average 5.1 more pounds of fat versus the people who were had the higher percentage of bactericides bacteria in their gut. Now, before you jump to conclusions and start thinking that the plant-based diet is going to be more beneficial for weight loss, you also have to consider things like bioavailability, right? So animal products are going to be higher bioavailability, right? When you have a lot of fiber and stuff, sometimes it blocks the absorption of certain nutrients. I did a post on Facebook a while back, and it was talking about that you'd have to eat like pounds and pounds of carrots to get the same amount of vitamin A that you get from liver, or you'd have to eat 350 cups, I believe it was, or like hundreds of cups of kale to get the same amount of vitamin K and stuff that was in liver, right? And various different other things, right? So you might actually, it's not to say that necessarily it's the bacteria, right? But sometimes it also might just be that you're losing weight simply because even though you're feeding yourself and you're filling up your stomach, you're actually not absorbing as much nutrition from it because it's the concentration and the ability to absorb it is not as high. So that's one thing. The other thing is that they noticed that in another study talking about, the people who are in the more northern climates, this bactericides bacteria, which was shown in the one where they're comparing it with Prevotella bacteria, the bactericides was actually, when they compared it to this Facetium or Ferricium bacteria, when they showed that the ratio between the Facetium bacteria and the bactericides bacteria, that the people who had a higher ratio of bactericides relative to this Facetium bacteria actually it was associated with lower rates of obesity. So there is that to consider as well. Now, moving on from that, so this is something that I've just started to dive into, and I wanted to kind of throw that out there a little bit. So you might want to dig into that a little bit more yourself as well, and I might make a video in the future on that. But I did want to point out that some people will say, that's why you should eat more carbohydrates and plant-based diet, and that animal proteins and animal fats are bad for you. I do want to do a video on carnivore versus plant-based in the future, but that's going to take a lot more study to really be able to do justice on both of those. So I'm holding out on that until I can get all the details together that I can form, at least in my mind, my own opinion on that. Okay, so continuing on the obesity relative to bacteria conversation here, we have a study where they literally took fecal implants from obese patients, or fecal samples from obese patients from different parts of their digestive tract, intestines, and the colon, and then they did implants of these into mice, right? Not very nice, I know. But what they found was that the mice, after being implanted with these bacteria, became obese themselves. Now, I'm not sure if that's because it changed the preference of what the mice wanted to eat or how much they're eating, but at any rate, it is interesting to note that the kind of bacteria that they implanted in the mice did cause them to gain weight. In another study, where they took 77 pairs of twins, and they must have had to look for quite a while to find this ideal ratio, right? Because in these pairs of twins, one twin was obese or very overweight, and the other twin was of normal weight. And I would think that oftentimes in twins, because family environment does definitely influence your weight, that oftentimes both the twins would be overweight. So they had to probably search for a while to find the ideal ratio where one was normal and one was obese. At any rate, what they noticed in this study of these 77 pairs of twins was that the twins that were obese not only had different kinds of bacteria in their gut, so remembering back to the mice study, right? So the bacteria in the gut can influence whether you become obese or not, and they also had lower diversity of bacteria, so less different types of bacteria in their gut than their normal weight counterparts. And this goes back to also that plant-based diet, right? So diets that are high in fiber as well as a variety of different plants increases the diversity of bacteria in the gut. Now, one thing I will say is that in an animal-based diet, you oftentimes don't need as much diversity of bacteria because you have less variety of things that you are having to digest, and therefore the bacteria is not needed to be digesting those things. But the higher diversity of bacteria in the gut has been associated in multiple studies with a lower risk for developing obesity. So another plug for eating more fiber is not only does the fiber increase feelings of fullness, right? But you also have two main types of fiber. So you have your soluble fiber, which is the type that you're going to have in more so in like vegetables and fruits and stuff. And then you have your insoluble fiber, which is more the type you're going to get in beans, whole grains, and things like that, right? So your soluble fiber is stuff that your body can actually digest to a certain extent, but it does slow down intestinal transit time. And if you're slowing down the amount of the time that it takes for food to get through your digestive system, it's going to decrease how hungry you feel, right? On the other hand, the insoluble fiber is like the stuff in the beans and the whole grains, increases intestinal transit time, but it is not absorbable by the body. Now, this insoluble fiber that increases intestinal transit time, though, can actually produce feelings of fullness, irregardless of just the fact that it's absorbing water and things like that, and increasing the bulk of, in the stomach, right? Because there is like baroreceptor, or like almost kind of like a baroreceptor, right, in the stomach, right? And where it triggers this hormone ghrelin, right? So that when the stomach is filled to a certain point, ghrelin is triggered, and then it causes you to feel like, okay, I need to stop eating, right? So when you're eating things that are higher in fiber, you're going to increase the volume of the food that you're eating. It's going to more quickly trigger you that you need to stop eating, right? And so you're going to therefore eat less. But above and beyond that, the bacteria that is in your gut that digests this insoluble fiber, right? Because we can't digest it, but the bacteria can actually feed off of this, and that's why they call it a prebiotic, right? So you have the probiotic, which is the bacteria, you have the prebiotic that the bacteria feeds off of, and they, in their metabolic processes, they give off certain chemicals that actually can increase feelings of satiety or fullness, right? So you will tend to eat less as well. So that is another plug for potentially having more fiber in your diet. Now, in my opinion, and the way that I feel about things, I feel that you should be eating most of your food from whole food sources, right? And getting a mix of both animal and plant sources, right? Because I think that, some people say, well, animal products are bad, right? Or and then now in more recent times, you have people talking about, well, plant foods are bad because they have oxalates and they have lectins and they have goitrogens and these different things that are toxins to the body because the plant can't run away like an animal can, so it needs to poison you to prevent you from eating it in the future. And I do think at certain levels, there are different plants that have, obviously you can get arsenic from plants. You can get other chemicals from plants that you use to poison people and make different drugs and things like that, right? And so I do think that there is some truth to that, but I think that you can get around some of that by how you prepare the foods as well. So for example, with beans and grains, if you soak them and if you boil them, it drastically reduces the amounts of lectins in those plant foods, and so makes them more absorbable to the body. And also that fiber, if it's feeding that beneficial gut bacteria and making it easier for you to eat, then it could be beneficial as well. The other thing is, we couldn't survive all these years either. Like, what happens if you have an unsuccessful hunt, if you're not able to get that animal or whatever? So the body has to be able to be adaptable and to thrive off of a variety of different food substances, but I do believe that these food substances should be actual real foods that contain those vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, and things like that the body can actually use to improve its health, rather than refined grains, refined sugars, and alcohol and soda and things like that are full of chemicals and completely devoid of any nutritional value, because the nutrients of the food not only are good for, they actually help you to, your body to metabolize fats and carbohydrates more efficiently. And so if you're having a white bread or something like that, or this refined sugar, your body can't absorb it as well and use it for energy as well, because it doesn't have the necessary vitamins and minerals there to help absorb and use it. So the last point on the subject of obesity is how bacteria can influence the way that dietary fat is absorbed in the small intestine. So certain kinds of bacteria can make change whether you're metabolizing that fat for energy and using it to give you more energy to carry out different metabolic processes within the body, or storing it as body fat. So the kind of if you're eating more of those plant type things, get the fiber and stuff, and creating more of those short chain fatty acids within the body, it can be proved more beneficial. Now, some of these short chain fatty acids actually you can get from animal products as well, and it has been said that you can actually get more short chain fatty acids from eating like grass-fed butter than you can from getting a whole bunch of plants. And so that's how the carnivore crowd will actually get around that whole thing about plant fiber and diversity. I'm of the opinion that as long as it is a actual food and not an edible food-like substance, and you are getting a balance of you're getting a variety of different types of that thing. So if you're eating a carnivore diet, you're getting a variety of different types of meats, organ meats, fish, eggs, things like that, butter, getting a variety of different types of nutrients from that. And the same thing goes for plants, getting a variety of different nutrients from those things. And then the most important thing being getting sufficient amount of complete amino acids. Whether you're doing a more plant-based diet or a traditional diet or carnivore diet, you're getting those amino acids. And then, if you are doing a carnivore diet, you don't really need carbohydrates, because the body can produce its own, ketones from fats, right? As long as it has enough water available. Now, if you're eating a plant-based diet, the primary thing would be the protein. So I would say, regardless of what kind of diet you're doing, make sure you're getting enough complete proteins in your diet, and then a wide variety of different types, getting it from different sources, so that you're getting also a variety of different vitamins, minerals that are going to help to sustain the overall health of your body. All right, so now we're going to move on to the subject of your immune system. Now, as a child, I struggled a lot with my immune system. I was constantly sick when I was in grade school, and so some of that might have had to do with the fact that I was having gut issues even before I knew that I had digestive issues. I had a lot of gas, I had a lot of skin issues with my hands, eczema, I guess you call it. Is that what it's called? Anyway, my hands would get really rough and red in the wintertime. My uncle actually one time, he thought that I had, I just wasn't washing my hands enough. So he tried to scrub off all this, rough, scaly stuff on my hands. And it's like, no, I actually probably had something going on in my gut. Now, up to 80% of your immune system is housed in your gut. So if you've got issues going on with your gut, if you've got leaky gut, if you've got, dysbiosis, which is an imbalance between good bacteria and bad bacteria, and you have more bad bacteria than good bacteria, your immune system is going to take a serious hit. The other thing is it can affect the health of your mouth as well, your oral cavity, right? Because if you have too much bad bacteria, it's going to affect that as well. And then if you get like a puncture in your mouth or something like that, it can go up and affect your brain. Years ago, I worked as a nursing assistant, and I was taking care of a guy, and he had to get actually, he had like an aneurysm or something like that because of an infection that he had in his mouth, and it polluted his blood and affected his brain. And so that's how serious this actually can be. Now, above and beyond that, and this is something that I recently learned, which I thought was fascinating, is that your body, the bacteria in your gut can actually create certain vitamins for you, right? Particularly the B vitamins. So, and vitamin K. So vitamin K is great for improving, for healing wounds and cuts and stuff like that. It's also helpful for the absorption of vitamin D, which is beneficial for your immune system as well. So, if you want to help keep that digestive tract nice and keep the tight junctions and stuff between the epithelial cells good, you want that plenty of vitamin K to help support that. But you can also produce from certain types of bacteria, can help to produce your B vitamins like thiamine, your biotin, folate, riboflavin, pantothenic acid, or vitamin B5, and again that vitamin K, which is not a B vitamin but is beneficial for wound healing. All right, so up until this point, a lot of the information that I've been talking about related to the bacteria in general and health has been related to health in general. But I did say at the beginning of the video that I wanted to talk about bacteria as it relates to men's health, all right? So one of the things that you think about as far as health for men is testosterone, right? And a lot of times guys think, well, your testosterone tends to dip and decrease with age, right? And so a lot of guys, you get to 40 years old or something like that, you're thinking, well, my testosterone is going to start going down, right? And actually, decreases in testosterone as well as muscle mass and strength are more related to lifestyle factors, changing in priorities and stuff. So for example, in your 20s, you don't have as many responsibilities, you're out there playing more sports, you have less stress because of less responsibilities usually, and you're maybe spending more time in the gym and lifting weights and doing all these things that are going to help to support that, right? Fast forward, now you have some kids, maybe you're staying up late, your sleep is getting disrupted. Now you have to focus more on, earning more money and stuff so you can support that family. You have this, and then as time goes on, you have to deal with, the stress of, maybe your kids are not, acting in line with how you'd like them to act, maybe you have stress at work, stress with your spouse, different things like that. And stress and testosterone are inversely related, right? So the higher your cortisol levels are stress and cortisol, right? So cortisol is a stress hormone, right? Cortisol and testosterone are inversely related, right? So when your cortisol levels go up, your testosterone goes down. So the more stress you have going on in your life, the lower your testosterone levels are going to be. Now, if you are taking care of your health, if you're eating right, you are managing your stress levels well, you're exercising, particularly lifting heavy weights, doing sprinting type activities and things like that, keeping a positive outlook on life, you are supporting your health with your testosterone levels with things like magnesium, zinc, boron, and you're getting out there doing cold exposure, things like that, then it is quite possible to maintain your normal testosterone levels all the way up into 70 years old. After that, then your testosterone levels can start to naturally tend to decrease and stuff, right? But as far as testosterone goes, related to bacteria, there are certain strains of bacteria that have been associated with higher levels of testosterone. So when I was in grade school, growing up in Hawaii, because my dad was in the Marine Corps, there was a popular fermented dish. So like here in the Midwest, we like to eat our sauerkraut and brats, right? Have a little bit of sauerkraut in your brats in the summertime at that, at the hot dog stand or whatever. Well, in Hawaii, because of the large population of Japanese people and different Asian populations, there was kimchi was actually a pretty popular dish. Now, this plantarum bacteria that is really prevalent in kimchi has been associated with increased levels of testosterone, right? And particularly this plantarum bacteria has been associated also with increases in muscle mass, in strength, and also endurance performance. So it seems like the best of all worlds. You get stronger, you build more muscle, and you have better endurance performance. And some of that endurance performance might be related to the fact that it also helps you to increase your glycogen levels, right? So glycogen is carbohydrates that are stored in your muscles, skeletal muscle, and your liver, right? That helps you to stave off fatigue. So in marathon running, they have this term called hitting the wall, right? So you're hitting the wall means that you've depleted that glycogen in your muscles and in the liver, and so now all of a sudden you run out of the carbohydrate stores, you're having to rely more on fat, and that's why actually if you train maybe in a lower or a fasted state or the lower carbohydrate state, sometimes it'll increase your ability to have that fat adaptation so that you can use fat for fuel and be able to push past that. Because otherwise you get to that 20-mile mark, and usually that's about the point where you've depleted everything, and now you don't have those carbohydrates to keep on running, and all of a sudden your energy just takes a dive, right? So if you have this bacteria that can help to improve glycogen stores so that you can have higher levels of that carbohydrate stored in the muscles and the liver, it can actually help you to improve your long distance endurance training. The other thing that can help you to improve your endurance is to, again, go back to eating those whole food sources of carbohydrates. Why? Because when you're eating whole food sources of carbohydrates versus sugars and refined grains, it allows your body to rely more on fatty acids, thus saving your carbohydrates for high intensity forms of activity, like doing that maximum bench press or doing a maximum squat, right? And also saving it for, when you have to power through at the end of that marathon. And it's also going to help you to stay leaner as well, because if you're burning more fatty acids as opposed to carbohydrate, you're going to be able to, if you run out of carbohydrates, start tapping into body fat stores and keep on exercising. And so it's going to help to keep you leaner as well. Okay, so a few more types of bacteria related to testosterone production in addition to this plantaris bacteria are your Phylum Firmicutes bacteria, which was, again, associated with higher levels of obesity, though. So some of these things, yeah, they're going to help to improve your testosterone, but they're also related to higher levels of obesity. And we do tend to see that in general, that sometimes, if you're certain things, for example, might help make you leaner. So, for example, eating a high-protein, very low-fat diet can help you to drop to very low levels of body fat, but at the same time, your cholesterol levels and stuff drop way too low, and so your testosterone tends to take a dip and take a hit as well. So some things that are good for, losing body weight are not good for your overall hormonal health. So a lot of times in the quest to become as lean as possible or whatever, you tend to ruin other parts of your overall health in general. So that's why weight loss is not necessarily healthy all the time. Yes, weight loss might be a part of your overall health, right? If you are severely obese, you're going to have, this metabolic syndrome. You're going to be more likely to get type 2 diabetes. You're going to be more likely to have high blood pressure. You're more likely to have high lipid levels and high levels of fat in your blood, which are going to decrease insulin sensitivity and things like that, and are going to be more related to heart disease and stroke, right? So you don't want those kind of things. And so losing some body weight can help you with that. But losing body weight, it's important how you lose your body weight as well, because just losing weight does not mean that you're going to be healthy, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so some other types of bacteria that can be beneficial for improving testosterone levels are going to be this Clostridius bacteria, this Turobacter bacteria, and this Gemella bacteria. All right, guys, so we've covered a lot in this video. Definitely a lot to digest. It was a lot for me to put this together, but I want to wrap this up with a few more strains of bacteria, particularly beneficial for guys and also for the general population, as you will find as I'm talking about this stuff. So, I'm going to divide this up into a couple different categories. So I'm going to be talking about probiotic strains that are most beneficial for like inflammation and IBS, stuff that's beneficial for your immune system, and then things that protect against pathogens, so like H. pylori, parasite, and that kind of stuff, right? So there's going to be some overlap between these, but I have them kind of divided in these main categories. All right, so starting off with IBS and inflammation. So you're going to have three primary types here that we want to look at, and that's going to be your Bacillus coagulans, and that's associated with the constipation and then, the just general symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. Then you're going to have your Bacillus subtilis, which is associated with reduction of inflammation and strengthening the gut barrier. So people who have this leaky gut syndrome. So, if you have this leaky gut, which, this is another reason why you may not want to eat too much plant products or too much fiber, things like beans and stuff like that. And again, keeping it to a more balanced diet. Have a protein, have a starch, have a vegetable, but don't have huge smoothies of kale and huge salads and stuff like that. A little bit of everything, have a balance, and that's probably the better way to go, because it has been shown that things like lectins in the beans and things like that, and oxalates and stuff can, cause little gaps in that gut barrier and cause you to leak nutrients and food out into the bloodstream, which then creates inflammation, creates, things like, high cholesterol and, as a result of the inflammation, because one of the functions of cholesterol is to help to repair things after inflammation has caused scarring and damage to those areas. So it can disrupt all sorts of different things in your hormonal processes as well. So this Bacillus subtilis is great for reducing that inflammation and also helping to heal the gut as well in that process, which can be helpful for people who have that leaky gut syndrome. Other things that can be helpful for leaky gut is to, obviously remove the things that are causing that leaky gut, irritations, foods that you have allergies to, and then also to take things like collagen protein can be helpful for that. Bone broth, because of the collagen in there, can be helpful, and also the glutamine can be helpful as well, and then glycine, an amino acid, can be helpful for that leaky gut symptom as well. The last one on this list of beneficial ones that are beneficial for inflammation and IBS is going to be this Lactobacillus plantarum, which again, you might remember that from the kimchi, that is helpful for increasing your testosterone. And it also has a lot of other things that are beneficial in addition to increasing testosterone, which would be normalizing your stool, getting normal healthy stools so you're not getting diarrhea, you're not getting constipation. It can help with abdominal pain. If you're having these cramps and stuff like that, oftentimes it can help to relieve that. And then more recently has been shown to be beneficial in the treatment for a wide variety of chronic issues, ranging from Parkinson's disease, diabetes, having obesity, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. All right, so let's talk about the immune system. We definitely want to have less sick days. We also want to keep ourselves, so that, like, one of my favorite quotes is a quote from Bruce Lee, where he said, "Don't pray for an easy life, but pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." The one thing that we can be guaranteed in life is that there's going to be adversity, there's going to be stressful situations, we're going to have to do a wide variety of things, right? And in today's society, it's less these big traumatic things like, oh, I just don't have enough food to eat, like in the past, or I'm, fighting another tribe, or I am going to war, or, I have to work really hard out in the harsh elements, or I have to, ward off the wild beasts or whatever. And so it's less of those kind of things that are going to take us down. And it's more like death by 1,000 cuts, right? All these little micro traumas that we get induced to on a day-to-day basis that just add up and lead to this chronic state of elevated stress, which over time can reduce your immune system and make you more susceptible to disease and different things like that. So since we can't necessarily, obviously you do want to do things that can help to bring down that stress. And some things that can help with that are things that I've talked about in the past. Getting more sunshine, doing, gentle type of exercise, yoga, deep breathing and stuff like that. And when you are in a less stressed environment, do vigorous type exercise, because that'll also increase your resilience to be able to withstand more stressful situations. When you are in a more stressful situation, you don't want to be overstressing yourself with really rigorous exercise. But when life is not super stressful, then you do want to do those things, because when life does get stressful, you're going to have to build up your resilience and make yourself stronger in the process. So some of the bacteria that can be helpful for boosting your immune system and being one more thing to help in that, I guess one more, piece in your arsenal to help you to, have a more robust immune system would be 4 different kinds of bacteria. And the first one is going to be this Saccharomyces boulardii. Right? This is really hard to pronounce, that one. And this one right here is going to help to enhance the immune system. It's also going to help to, it's resistant to antibiotics, right? So if you've had to take antibiotics in the past because you had a severe viral infection or, bacterial overgrowth or whatever it was, that you're taking this antibiotic for, antibiotics are really known for wreaking havoc on your digestive tract. And so this particular strain of bacteria is really helpful and resilient to, resistant to antibiotics. It also is, it survives acidic environments, right? So a lot of times people think, you have to have this, your probiotic, have it be time release so that it survives your stomach acid and doesn't get destroyed by the stomach acid, right? So this particular strain is also, can withstand high levels of acidity without being destroyed. The next one we want to look at is the bifidobacterium. So lactobacillus bifidobacterium, this also helps with vitamin synthesis in addition to the immune system. So those vitamins, the B vitamins and the vitamin K I was talking about before, this bacteria here is going to be that one that we're talking about. Lactobacillus fermentum. This is an immune system one, right? So we're talking, again, like all these are related to the immune system, but this one in particular is upper respiratory infections, right? So Lactobacillus fermentum is going to help you ward off those upper respiratory infections, and that's the thing that I actually had a lot of problems with when I was a kid, as I talked about before. I always had chronic bronchitis. I'd be out for the count for months on end, and as a result, I became very skinny in my early childhood, which later on led to an eating disorder. As I began to regain weight, as I started to regain my health, I kind of panicked because most of my childhood had been very skinny. And then when I started to get healthy again, I developed an eating disorder because of this weight gain that I was associated with, also the onset of puberty as you start to gain more weight, and then also because I was starting to get healthier at the same time. All right, so the last one on this list is Lactobacillus acidophilus. So this one right here is something that a lot of people are familiar with. Acidophilus, right, is like, I've known about that probably since grade school, right? And I think that's probably the first bacteria strain that people think of when they think of a probiotic is acidophilus, right? And if you notice, a lot of these ones, they have the prefix of lacto, right? Lactobacillus. So that has to do with the fact that they produce more lactic acid, right? And it can help with warding off some pathogenic bacteria, like such as H. pylori and stuff, because these bacteria don't like this lactic acid, right? They don't like the lactic acid that is produced by this kind of bacteria, and so it helps to keep those ones down, this harmful bacteria down, while elevating these more beneficial kinds of bacteria. The other thing that this acidophilus is going to be good for is, again, helping to improve the gut lining, the resilience of your gut lining, helping to make that less permeable to harmful bacteria and pathogens. All right, last but not least in this video, and I know I already touched base on some of these bacteria as well, but the last two strains of bacteria that I want to talk about here that are going to be most beneficial for warding off pathogens such as H. pylori bacteria, which is a pretty common bacteria these days, and other harmful things like E. coli and streptococcus and things like that, are going to be two different bacteria, and they are Bacillus clausii. And this is helpful if you're having diarrhea, and also that H. pylori that I was talking about before. So again, that's Bacillus clausii, which helps with diarrhea, pathogens such as H. pylori. The second one we want to talk about is Lactobacillus reuteri. And I've seen this, this is actually a pretty common one that they put on a lot of probiotic supplements, is this reuteri. I keep on seeing this a lot. And reuteri helps to, it's kind of like Roto-Rooter, right? It goes in there and helps to eradicate this, or at least bring down and get rid of that H. pylori bacteria, other harmful pathogenic bacterias, and it's also associated with healthy lipid profiles. So keeping your cholesterol within a normal range, helping to keep the fats out of your blood. Now, the primary thing with fats in the blood is if you're not exercising enough, if your body fat levels are too high, you're going to have more fat in the blood just simply because you're not burning it off, right? So fats and things like that are not in carbohydrates. They're not bad. It's just a matter of you want to take them in and you want to use them. You know, you don't want to just let them sit there, right? And build up, right? That's when you cause problems. You want to take the fuel in, use it for its intended purpose, and then get rid of it, and so that you can take in more and that kind of thing, right? Because food is fuel for the body. Food is, medicine for the body. It's good as long as you're eating food and not edible food-like substances. So guys, that's all I have to say here today on the subject of probiotics for your health, for your immune system, for your metabolic health, for hormonal health, for your muscle mass and strength, and the things that I talked about in this video. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit that like button if you like to see more content like this related to things like this, related to nutrition, because again, the basis of this is a fitness channel, right? But if you're not digesting your food properly, if you're not assimilating those nutrients, you are at the very least not going to be getting the best results that you could from your workout program, and at the most be like I was, barely able to function as a human being, let alone be an athlete. So this is serious stuff. You want to be focusing on that gut health. You want to be focusing on putting in the proper nutrients. And if you don't have gut problems right now, just make sure do that preventative medicine, Make sure you're getting a balanced diet, a wide variety of nutrients. Maybe take a probiotic supplement, do a little research, take some of these things, these probiotics that I'm talking about in this video, and do that. If you'd like to see more content related to, workout design, how to prevent and also work around injuries that you might sustain while on your fitness journey to build more strength, stamina, reduce body fat, whatever your goal might be, consider subscribing to the channel by hitting the button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks guys for watching.